The subject of the Dajjal is one that remains mysterious, perplexing, and often puzzling until he actually appears. Many questions arise when discussing this enigmatic figure: who he truly is, what his powers entail, whether he was the same person as Ibn Sayyad or someone else entirely. Is he alive at this very moment, or has he already perished? These are uncertainties that remain unanswered. One of the most intriguing narrations that raises numerous questions about the Dajjal comes from a hadith in which a noble companion of the Prophet Muhammad, Tamim al-Dari, shared an extraordinary experience that he and his companions encountered while sailing across the sea. The gathering of the people of Medina. It was during the blessed time of the Prophet Muhammad. That one day, the people of Medina were urgently summoned to the masjid. They quickly gathered, eager to hear what was so pressing that required their immediate attention. The great companion Tamim al-Dari stood before them, supporting himself with his stick, as was his habit whenever he wished to address the people. Standing atop an elevated position, he asked, "Do you know why I have gathered you all here today?" The people of Medina, unsure of the reason, replied, "Allah and his messenger know best." It was not the time for prayer, nor was there any known news of a joyous or tragic event that would require such a sudden assembly. Then Tamim al-Dari revealed, "I have not gathered you for either good or bad news. But rather this very man who stands before you has witnessed something that I have always spoken to you about." And with that, he began narrating his astonishing experience. The journey across the sea. Tamim al-Dari explained that he had embarked on a voyage with 30 men, all of whom hailed from the lands of Lakam and Judam, two well-known Arab tribes from the region of Asham, modern-day Levant. This part is crucial because, at times, people speculate that perhaps he was mistaken in what he saw. However, it was not just him. Rather, he was accompanied by 30 men who all bore witness to the same event. These Arabs who lived near the coastal regions, such as those in Palestine, were accustomed to sailing. They set out on a journey by sea, but soon a violent storm struck, and the fierce waves tossed their ship into the unknown. Lost at sea, they drifted aimlessly for an entire month, 30 long days and nights, having no clue where they had been taken by the raging waters. Eventually, after all hope seemed lost, they sighted an island in the distance. Relief washed over them, as they had been surrounded by nothing but the endless ocean, and their provisions were dwindling. However, the water around them was salty and undrinkable, making the prospect of reaching the island even more urgent, hoping to find fresh water. Taking a smaller boat, they made their way toward the shore. But what awaited them on that island was beyond anything they had ever imagined. The strange beast? As soon as they set foot on the island, an unusual creature approached them. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. It was covered in thick, tangled hair to the extent that they could not discern its front from its back. They had no way of telling where its head was or where its tail might be. Startled, they exclaimed, "Woe to you! What are you?" To their amazement, the beast spoke. It introduced itself as al-Jassasa, a name that derives from the Arabic word meaning the spy, or the one who gathers information. This left the travelers even more bewildered. What was this creature? Why was it speaking to them? What was it spying on? The beast then instructed them, "Go to that man who is waiting for you in the monastery." A monastery, or a place of worship, was commonly used in those times as a secluded place where monks would dedicate their lives to prayer and devotion. However, the sight of this strange beast was enough to alarm them, and their instincts told them to flee from it immediately. They hurriedly made their way in the direction it had indicated, approaching the structure that stood on the island. The chained man. Inside the monastery, they encountered an imposing figure, a man of gigantic stature, larger and stronger than any they had ever seen. His features were rough and harsh, exuding a sense of power, and his entire body was bound in chains. His hands were tied to his neck, and his legs were shackled together at the knees. He was completely restrained, unable to move except to lift his head slightly to look at them. Upon seeing him, the group demanded, "Who are you?" But the chained man responded, "You are the ones who have come here." You have the ability to harm me, for I am in chains. So, it is my right to ask you first, who are you? Recognizing the truth in his words, they introduced themselves. We are Arabs who set sail on a ship. A storm took us off course and we became lost at sea for a month. Eventually, we found ourselves on this island, where a strange, hairy beast led us to you. Despite their unease, they listened as the man began questioning them about several significant places. The signs of the last hour. The chained man first asked, "Tell me about the palm trees of Baysan." Baysan is a region in Jordan, and he wanted to know whether its palm trees were still bearing fruit. They answered, "Yes, the palm trees are abundant, and they bear plenty of dates." To this he ominously responded, "Soon their dates will no longer bear fruit." Indeed, in recent times the date palms of Baysan have dwindled, fulfilling this prophecy. Scholars and researchers who have studied this narration have confirmed that the date production in that area has significantly declined. Then he inquired, "Tell me about the Sea of Tiberias." The Sea of Tiberias, also known as Lake Kinneret, is located in present-day Israel, close to the region of the Golan Heights. They replied, "It is full of water." He foretold, "Soon its water will dry up." And truly, in our era, the water level of the Sea of Tiberias has been diminishing, aligning with what was foretold. Next, he asked, "What about the Zugar Fountain?" The Zugar Fountain, believed to be near modern-day Jordan, was known for its abundant water and surrounding vegetation. They confirmed, "Yes, it is flowing with water, and people cultivate their crops around it." Again he declared, "A time will come when it will cease to provide water." Then he turned to an even more significant question. "Tell me about the prophet of the unlettered people. What has he done?" They answered, "He has appeared in Makkah, and now he resides in Medina." He continued, "Have his people fought against him?" They affirmed, "Yes, they opposed him, but he found supporters among the Arabs of Medina who have embraced Islam and follow him." The chained man then stated something remarkable. Indeed, it is better for them to remain steadfast in following him. And then he revealed his true identity. "I am the Dajjal." He declared, "I am the Messiah, the false Christ. Very soon I will be granted permission to leave this place. And when I do, I shall roam the earth, entering every city and village within 40 days. There will be no place left that I will not reach." The only exception, he said, would be Makkah and Medina, for these two sacred cities would be divinely protected from his reach. The travelers, upon hearing this, fled in terror and made their way back to their ship. As soon as they returned to their homeland, Tamim al-Dari set out for Medina without delay. When he arrived, he met the Prophet Muhammad and immediately embraced Islam, recognizing that what he had witnessed was undeniable proof of the truth of his message. The Dajjal, his nature and future emergence. The narration of Tamim al-Dari is one of the most compelling accounts regarding the Dajjal, providing an eerie glimpse into the reality of his existence. It confirms that he is a physical being, tangible, alive, and awaiting his appointed time to emerge. However, it also raises a profound question. If this encounter happened during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, how could the Dajjal still be alive, bound in chains, over 14 centuries later? The answer to this lies in the divine decree of Allah. The Dajjal is not an ordinary human being. He is a great trial, a test from Allah, created to be a means of fitnah, tribulation, for mankind. Just as Allah has prolonged the lives of certain other beings, such as the cursed Iblis, who was granted respite until the day of judgment, the Dajjal's existence is similarly prolonged, kept in chains until his time comes. The role of the Dajjal as a trial. The emergence of the Dajjal is one of the greatest tests that humanity will ever face. He will possess powers that will bewilder and deceive people, making them question their faith. According to authentic narrations, he will be able to bring the dead back to life, though in reality, these will be illusions created by the devils who serve him. He will claim to be divine, to be a god, and he will travel the entire earth in an incredibly short span of time. It is mentioned in multiple hadiths that his reign of terror will last for 40 days. However, these 40 days will not be like ordinary days. The first day will be as long as a year. The second day will be as long as a month. The third day will be as long as a week. And the remaining days will be like our regular days. This strange alteration in time will itself be a test. When the companions heard this, their immediate concern was how they would perform their daily prayers during that first day, which would last as long as an entire year. The Prophet Muhammad advised them, estimate its time and perform the prayers accordingly. This highlights how serious and bewildering this trial will be. Imagine a world where time itself becomes unstable, where a single day stretches out beyond normal comprehension. Such extraordinary occurrences will leave people confused, and many will be tempted to believe in the false miracles of the Dajjal, his powers and the deception he will bring. The Dajjal will wield tremendous influence over the world. He will have control over resources, causing rain to fall and crops to grow for those who follow him, while those who reject him will suffer from drought and starvation. He will command the earth to produce its treasures, and it will obey him. He will resurrect the dead, though in truth, these will be devils taking the appearance of the deceased, and he will show people paradise and hell. Yet his paradise will be true hell, and his hell will be true paradise. The Prophet Muhammad warned, he will have with him two things resembling Jannah and Jahannam. What he will call paradise will, in reality, be the fire of hell, and what he will call hell will, in reality, be paradise. This means that those who are deceived by their eyes and seek worldly comfort will fall into destruction, while those who trust in the guidance of Islam and stay firm in their faith will be saved. Protection from the Dajjal. Given the immense deception that the Dajjal will bring, the Prophet Muhammad provided several ways to seek protection from his fitnah. Seeking refuge in Allah, the Prophet taught us to recite the following supplication at the end of every prayer. O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the punishment of hellfire, from the punishment of the grave, from the trials of life and death, and from the evil of the trial of the false Messiah, Dajjal. Memorizing and reciting Surah Al-Kahf. It has been narrated that the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf, when recited with understanding, will serve as protection from the Dajjal's deception. Avoiding his presence. The Prophet advised that when the Dajjal appears, the believers should distance themselves from him as much as possible. Those who seek him out thinking they will be able to confront him may be overcome by his tricks. Recognizing his signs. The Dajjal will be one-eyed with the letters Kafar written on his forehead, meaning kafir, disbeliever. This mark will be visible to every believer, whether literate or illiterate. The final confrontation, the return of Prophet Isa. The Dajjal will continue his tyranny, leading many astray until Allah decrees his end. His descent will take place near the white minaret of the masjid in Damascus, where he will join the believers led by Imam Mahdi. When the Dajjal sees Prophet Isa, he will be overcome with fear. He will attempt to flee, but he will not be able to escape. Prophet Isa will pursue him and eventually kill him at a place called Ludd, a town in present-day Palestine. With the death of the Dajjal, his evil influence will come to an end, and peace will be restored to the world. The people who remain steadfast in faith will be victorious, and a new era of justice and righteousness will begin. The importance of understanding this trial. This is not just a story from history or a prediction of future events. It is a serious matter that concerns every believer. The Dajjal's trial will be unlike any other, and those who are not prepared may fall into his trap. This is why the Prophet Muhammad emphasized the severity of this fitnah more than any other. He said, "There has never been a trial, from the time of Adam until the day of judgment, greater than the trial of the Dajjal." It is for this reason that we must equip ourselves with knowledge, strengthen our faith, and remain steadfast in our beliefs. The signs of the last day are unfolding before our eyes, and the trials of our time may be leading up to the ultimate test. May Allah protect us from the trials of the Dajjal and keep us firm upon the path of Islam.